Welcome to Sit, Stay, Read, the podcast for every wag, whinny, and whisker. I'm Kathleen Donnelly, award-winning author and retired canine handler. Each week, I chat with novelists about the bond we share with our furry friends and how they inspire stories. Grab a coffee, get cozy with your favorite pet. It's time to sit, stay, read. Well, today I'm thrilled to introduce Patrick O'Donnell. Patrick is a fellow author, podcaster, and also a retired Milwaukee police sergeant. Many of you know him from his podcast and Facebook group, Cops and Writers. He's helped many authors, including myself, get the facts right. And while his books, I don't believe, feature four-legged characters, which I will double check with him soon, we do have a four-legged guest on the show with us today, Patrick's dog, Clark. So make sure you check out the YouTube channel so you can all say hi to Clark. And we're going to learn more about Clark later on. I'm so glad he could join us. And Patrick, I'm glad you could join us as well. Thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Kathleen. Always great talking to you. And yes, when I told Clark I was going to be on this show, he jumped at it. He's like, you know what? I have to sit in your lap and, bark at squirrels outside and do my Clark things. So absolutely.
Yes, yes. And Boomer would have joined him, except Boomer played with his squeaky toy all morning long and is sound asleep right now. If you hear noises, he's down there snoring. So,
Aw, way to go,
so
Boomer.
that's right. Well, I'm glad Clark could come on because I'm sure he's your little co-author. He helps you write.
He
And
does.
yeah, I mean, they're the best ones. And I'm curious. I know so much about you, but I realized I don't know your writer origin story. Were you one of those officers who secretly enjoyed writing reports?
No, not at all.
I didn't think so.
Oh Lord,
Okay.
I stayed away from reports like the plague. I started with the Milwaukee Police Department in 1995.
Okay.
And when I first got to a district station after going through the academy for 6 months, and I'll back up a little bit. In the academy, you write a ton of reports, and it was all handwritten. And you get
Okay.
to and there was a report writing class. We had an English class. We had a spelling class.
Really?
I felt
Okay.
like I was back in high school again. I'm just like, but it made sense because back then you had one or two dictionaries with most of the pages missing in the assembly that were full of coffee stains and, like cigarette burns and whatever else, that were just there. And I remember I was super high speed because I bought one of those spell checks because I'm dyslexic. My spelling is horrible. I went to
Oh,
Catholic
wow.
school
Okay.
for grade school, and those nuns just had a horrible time with me. My handwriting was atrocious. My spelling was horrible, but my grammar was good. I had a pretty good grasp of the English language. But when I was brand new, you hand wrote reports with carbon paper. And if
Oh
you
my
made a
gosh.
mistake, you
Okay.
used white out, green out, pink out, because like the general report was usually on a white piece of paper. Then like a clearance, say you arrested somebody, you'd have to write another report on a green piece of paper. That was they call it the green. That was a clearance. You arrested somebody or they didn't want to prosecute, but you'd still have to write a report. Then the pink copy was the
Okay.
district copy. I mean, oh my God, you're swimming in paperwork. It was horrible. I
Oh
couldn't
my
stand
gosh.
it. So the district station actually had two typewriters, two electric typewriters. So I snagged one, and I was one of the only guys that knew how to type. The clerks,
Wow.
we had
Okay.
civilian clerks. They all had to know how to type because they typed up reports all day. And I'm just whizzing by on the typewriter, and people were looking at me like, "Whoa, what kind of voodoo craziness are you up to here?" And I'm like, "This is the best ever. You get this stuff done twice as fast, and you can actually read this as opposed to my handwriting."
Okay. Well, that's
So
cool.
that's
So,
how that's
oh,
how it
sorry, go
kind of
ahead.
started. But writing books before I was a cop, I have a 4-year degree in sociology and a minor in criminal
Okay.
justice. And back in the late 80s, there weren't a whole lot of jobs in 90s. And it was really difficult to find a job in the police departments. So
Yeah.
I sold cars, I bartended, I was a restaurant manager, I did all kinds of stuff. And I finally got on the department. I still had people asking me, hey, could you help me buy a car?
Okay.
People enjoy going to the car dealership about as much as the dentist or, public speaking or, all
Right.
the above.
Right.
And what happened was I was helping friends and family. And before you know it, probably maybe my last 10 years of the job, I started a small business helping people buy cars. I got a
Okay.
GoDaddy, website, which was high speed back then. And I I charge people to, they'd call me, hey, I'm at the dealership. This is what's going on. So it was okay, except for I didn't bank on or I didn't foresee the changes in time zones. A lot of
Okay.
people weren't from this country, and I couldn't understand what they were saying most of the time. It was really, really difficult. And finally, it wasn't worth my time. I'm
Okay.
working a 10-hour day or a 9-hour day or a 12-hour day. Then I go to the gym, then I go home, and I'm constantly getting phone calls. And I'm like, okay, this has got to stop. But somebody said, you know what? You should write a book.
Huh.
And this is when Amazon had, self-publishing. You could put your book up on Amazon. You didn't need an agent. You didn't need a publisher. You
Mhm.
just put it up there. So at first, I was going the traditional route. Everything looked rosy and the bottom fell out. And I'm like, okay, what now? And I forget who it was. They're like, well, you could self-publish. And I'm like, I can? I did not know this. So
Yes.
I started listening to podcasts specifically for self-published authors, and I just learned how to do it. And I threw up a book under a pen name. It was called I Never Wore Plaid, Insider Secrets from a Former Car Salesperson. The
I
cover
love
was
it.
terrible. The the editing was not great. And you know, I was shocked that complete strangers were buying this book. And that sparked something in me. I'm like, wow, if I put something up with better quality, I might be able to sell more books, have a better
Yeah.
cover, genre
Yeah.
specific, hire a professional editor, all that kind of good stuff. And I'm like, that's what opened the door.
Okay. Oh, I love it. I love Is that book still available?
It is. It's still, I just have it. It's on Amazon. It doesn't sell a lot. I probably sell like maybe 12 a year.
Okay.
Yeah, usually it's good for one a month, and I'm like, all right, it's just on Kindle. I don't have it on paperback or hardcover or
Okay.
audio, nothing like that. So, I started with that, and I had a buddy that wrote a post. I was talking to him about it, and he's like, I should do that. I have this idea for a post-apocalyptic book. And I'm like, dude, go for it. So he does it, and he made like 10, 15 grand his first year.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
it wasn't, I mean, the story was good. There's a classic example of the story was real good, but the editing was terrible. He was getting fragged in the reviews. It's like, do you know how to spell? Your grammar is
Yeah.
terrible, blah, blah, blah. But he was laughing all the way to the bank. People were
Yeah.
still buying it. The cover was horrible. But this is like at the beginning of the Kindle Gold Rush, back
Okay.
when there wasn't a ton of competition for
Okay.
this kind of thing. So he did really well. So I threw up a post-apocalyptic book and it kind of bombed. I'm like, all right, so much for that. And then I wound up getting divorced. So I thought, I'll write a book about divorce from the guy's point of view. So
Okay.
I
I
did
love
that.
it.
Yeah. And then what happened was I started going to writers' conferences. 20 books to 50K was the group that I joined. I became really good friends with Craig Martell. He ran the Vegas conferences. And I would go to these conferences, and inevitably, all these people would be asking me police questions.
Yeah.
Hey, would I need a search warrant for that? Hey, and everybody was super cool about it. They're very, very nice. And that's the one thing, if you're a cop, they're going to find you. I wasn't wearing a t-shirt that
Mhm.
said, hey, I'm a cop. I wasn't wearing a uniform. I just want to have a
Right.
drink and just relax, and inevitably it's going to happen. So somebody who knows a lot more about this stuff said, hey, Pat, you need to write some books specifically for writers regarding police procedure.
There
And
you
that's where
go.
the Cops and Writers book started. That's
Yes.
the Facebook group. I formed the Facebook group to help out writers as well, cops and writers. And it was me, my editor, and a couple of buddies. And then before I
Nice.
know it, there's 8,400 people in there now. It was featured in the Wall Street
Wow.
Journal. I mean,
I just read that. Yeah.
I was
Tell us more
floored.
about that. That was just amazing.
Well, I thought I was getting pranked. I got a lot of friends that play practical jokes. And I saw one thing I do, I vet my potential guests in my Facebook group. I'm very careful because there's a lot of predatory, BS out there
Yes.
regarding, hey, you know what? Give me $10,000 and I will make you a star. You're going to be a New York Times bestselling author, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And, you give them the 10 grand, you get a mediocre book, and that's the last time you hear from them. So
Yeah.
I try to stay away from, make sure that was not going to happen. And I get a request to join the group from some guy that, what he does for a living, he says Wall Street Journal reporter. And I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, hmm. And then he emailed me out of the blue, hey, can I talk to you? And I'm like, sure. So I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I get so many junk emails every day. And I'm
Yes.
like, whatever. So he called me like right away. I was in the gym, and before I know it, he's interviewing me for like over an hour. And I'm like, okay, this guy is
Wow.
legit. And I'm like,
Wow.
before I know it, like a month later, I was on the weekend edition. I was on the front cover. Not
That's
very
so
big.
awesome.
I mean, it was, there's other stuff
But
going on in the
still.
world a lot more important than me. But yeah, I was shocked. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is great. So yeah, that's how it all started.
That's awesome. And you have a link to it on your website. So if people want to go over to copsandwriters.com, right? Is that your website? I have
Yes,
that
that's
correct.
the
Okay,
website.
good. Okay.
That's the website, the Facebook group. That's the whole shooting match.
Okay. And then you have your podcast, which is phenomenal. I was immediately drawn to it because you get guests ranging from best-selling authors and former law enforcement, like Mark Cameron, Jack Carr, who was Navy SEAL, and then you have KGB spies and other. I mean, it's just the most fascinating podcast and a great resource as a writer too, along with the books. I keep these my reference
Thank
right
you.
by my desk, so you can see I've got little things marking what I need to know. But when did you decide to start a podcast? What's the
I
story
started the
behind that?
podcast around the same time as the Facebook group, it was a little bit past
Okay.
that, because when I wrote the Cops and Writers books, I'm like, okay, how am I going to promote these?
Yeah.
So it's like go on podcasts, go on as many, there was back in the day, there was blog tours. You become a guest
Yes.
blogger.
Yes.
Blogging was huge. And podcasting I feel like podcasting became the new blogging.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to get on as many as I could. So I pitched myself as much as I could. I got on as many podcasts as I could. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? I can do this. I was
Yeah.
a DJ back in college.
Oh, that's so
And
awesome.
yeah, so I'm like, I'm not scared of being behind the mic or in front of a camera or behind a camera or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to give it a shot. So
Yeah.
my first big guest was Mark Cameron. And that was because I was helping Lois Simonson. She's Lolo Page. She
Okay.
writes firefighter romance, wild firefighter, like the smoke jumpers and all that kind of stuff. Absolutely love Lois. Her and her husband go to the 20 books conferences,
Cool.
and I got to know them. They live in Alaska. And she said, you know what? You helped me so much. She said, how would you like to have Mark Cameron on your show? I'm like, well, I'd love it. He wrote the last like five Tom Clancy novels.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, he's my neighbor, and I'm going to tell him he has to. And I'm like, okay. So before
I
I
love
know it, I'm interviewing Mark
it.
Cameron. Now I'm besties with him, and I can text him, call him, whatever, and he's genuinely one of the nicest guys I've ever met.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy cow, how does this happen? And it's just it steamrolls, but I think a lot of it is just through service. I've helped a
Mhm.
ton of authors, and the karma bus doesn't run you over as much
Right.
when you're nice to people. That's the way I
Yes.
see it.
Yes, I agree. Well, that's so cool. And then now you've gone from you started out in the nonfiction books, but now you've gone over to fiction. And was I correct that none of the fiction books have animal characters? Is that correct? Just to clarify
You
for the
are
listeners.
You
Okay.
are correct, but I'm writing the sequel to my latest book, and guess who's in there in the second, no, or third chapter, and he's going to be in there.
Is it going to
This
be
guy,
Clark? Yay!
Clark. Oh yeah,
Oh, good.
Clark is going
Awesome.
to be in the. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, Clark's got to be in my book. So he
Yeah.
said it's
Yeah.
okay. I asked permission. He's okay with it. So yeah, we're
Okay. Well, since
Clark.
Clark is good with it, that's
Yep.
awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, I'm looking forward to that sequel because I read The Good Collar, which is the first book in your new series. And one thing that kind of I wondered, but through listening to your podcast and just some friends who are off also law enforcement, I know one of the things I hear over and over is when you say goodbye in the morning, you don't know if you'll see someone again. You don't know if you're coming home. And that is the reality of a job that just humbles me that so many people like you go out and do every day. But in your book, you kind of flipped it, where Michael Quinn is the officer, but he loses his wife, he loses his family. Is that a fear of officers? Do you see enough crime that you think, oh my God, this could be my family? Is that kind of what started that thought?
You know what? I never thought of it exactly that way, but you're 100% correct. You know,
Okay.
we see all the ugly. We
Yeah.
see, and when you get hit over the head with that day after day after day,
Yeah.
especially when you work in a big city where the volume of calls is just, it never stops.
Yeah.
So, you be in your personal life, you become hyper vigilant.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, when I go to a restaurant, I have to sit in the back with my back to a wall.
Okay.
It's, when I'm driving, my kids would laugh at me and my wife would laugh at me. It's like I'm driving like a cop, which means we drive a certain way. And it doesn't
Okay.
mean we're going 100 miles an hour everywhere. Although I do know some cops that do that off duty. I'm like, you guys are nuts. This is your car. This is
Right.
not a city car.
Right.
I still owe money on this, so I'm going to be nice to it. I'm going to drive like Miss Daisy's in the back seat, but it's like, okay, if I'm at a red light, I leave a ton of space between me and the car in front of me because I'm always thinking, what if this guy, what if he just jumps out and starts shooting at me? I need an escape
Yeah.
route.
Oh, wow.
I'm always
Okay.
thinking, okay, how do I get out of where I'm at? They call it,
Yeah.
head on a swivel. It never leaves you because you're just, all you see is the horrible stuff.
Yeah.
People never call the police when they're having their best day ever. Hey, you know what? Do you want to come over? We're having a barbecue. My kids are really healthy. I've got a great relationship with my wife. Life is awesome.
Yeah.
It's never that. Never, ever, ever. So
Yeah.
after a while, you need to have some kind of reminders in your life saying that it's not all bad. There is
Yeah.
good, but it's really difficult. And then, like you said before, it's like, yeah, you're thinking to yourself, you know, you kiss your wife goodbye or husband or whatever, or your dog, and you may never see him again. But
Yeah.
it's in
Yeah.
the back of your head, but you really aren't thinking about it, and you shouldn't
Okay.
obsess about it, or else you're going to do a terrible job. You're not
That
going to be
makes
a good
sense.
cop.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't want anything bad to happen to your loved ones. And if something bad happens, you instantly think you can fix it, even though
Okay.
sometimes you can't.
Okay. That makes sense.
That's that's police mentality.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to know. It's good to hear that from the other side, what it's really like. And I appreciate you sharing that kind of the reality of a very difficult job, very important job. You were also a sergeant, which meant you had to oversee many officers, but I think there's one in particular that I've heard you talk about that you're actually incredibly fond of, and I'd love to hear more about him, and that's Kenny.
Yeah, I love Kenny. I call him Kenny the Wonder Dog. Oh my God. What happens is if when I first started in 95, we had two canines for the entire department, which is not a lot. I
Wow.
mean,
No, not for
and they were
Milwaukee.
attached to our SWAT team was called the Tactical Enforcement Unit, and they were attached to them.
Okay.
Then a different chief came in and he got rid of the dogs. He said, no more dogs. He hated dogs.
Really?
Oh,
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
Couldn't
Oh my
stand them.
gosh.
So we got horses instead. So everybody's like, now
Okay.
we've got tactical horses, and we're like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. We never had a mounted unit. We didn't have any horses. So
Okay.
he brought in horses, and I gotta say, oh my God, those horses are some massive beasts. Can
Hmm.
they move people? Oh man, you got a crowd control situation and
Yeah.
you want to move a lot of people quickly, bring in the horses. Holy cow. I was awestruck. I really was.
Yeah.
They are just, they're amazing. I can't say enough good things about the horses. The only thing is, whenever a horse officer would come into the assembly into my station, I could smell them before I could see them. Oh man, that's a pungent aroma. Oh my gosh.
Oh, yes. My husband sympathizes with you. I have a horse, so he knows.
Yes, yes. It's quite the cologne, let me
Yes,
say.
yes.
So then we got another chief. Like, what happens in any big city is you get a police chief, and police chiefs are appointed by like a fire and police commission or the mayor, but whatever commission is more or less handpicked by the mayor, so it's the mayor's guy or gal, and
Okay.
it's incredibly political. What happens is, it's like, hey, I'm gonna hire Kathleen as my police chief, and I'm thinking that you can walk on water, you're gonna do amazing things, and the honeymoon period is awesome. Things are going great, and inevitably there's a scandal. There's something where the optics aren't so great. The cops are in the right, but the mayor wants to keep his job, so he's like, fire that cop, Kathleen. And Kathleen is like, um, yeah, it doesn't look great, but they did all the right stuff. Police work is a very ugly thing that sometimes doesn't go exactly as planned, et
Yep.
cetera, et cetera. And then they fall out of love with said chief, and then they send their bags packing, and it's the end of that romance. It
Okay.
happens every time. So
Okay.
that happened. The mayor that loved that chief that did not love dogs got they sent him packing, and
Okay.
then but we did keep the horses. We did keep which
Okay.
I'm very happy about, and we got the dogs back, and now
Nice.
we're back to a full canine unit. And one of my police officers that I supervised when I was working midnight to 8 got a dog, and his name was Kenny. And Christina was his handler, and I'm trying to get Christina on the show. I would love, love, love to have Christina on the show. And when you're a canine handler, you have free roam of the city. I mean,
Okay.
obviously, you know, if there's something going on that they want you there, you have to go. But for the most part, they expect you to do policey stuff, pull people over, do
Okay.
proactive policing,
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And inevitably, you've got to write reports, use the bathroom, have lunch, whatever. And you always go back to the district that you're comfortable with. Where I worked, there were
Okay.
7 districts and then a
Oh,
downtown
wow.
like headquarters.
Okay. Okay.
So Christina would come in with Kenny. And I tell you what, as soon as they walked in the assembly, it was like moths to a flame. Everybody's like, "Oh, can I pet him? Can I pet him?" He's a 120 pound German Shepherd that,
Wow, that's a big guy.
oh, he was huge. He was a big, big boy. And, he was the most well-behaved dog. I just kept
Yeah.
on thinking he's going to start talking at any second. He was so intelligent. She'd be at a computer writing a report or typing out a report, and Kenny would just lay down by her feet, wouldn't even
Yeah.
move. I just saw that bond, and she knew I loved dogs. So she said, "Hey, Sarge." And I'm like, "Yeah, tell you what, you want to have some fun?" I'm like, "Of course I do." So she said, "You know what? I've got a bite sleeve in my trunk. That's one of those big, sleeve thingies that they
Yeah.
put on so the dog will clamp onto it, but it won't break the skin."
Yeah.
And she said, "You know what? We'll just go in this one report writing room, and I'll say that, you've got a gun or a knife. Use your expandable baton, and I'll give you commands. And what's going to happen is Kenny's going to run, and he's going to clamp onto your arm that has the
Okay.
expandable baton." I'm like, "Please make sure he does that correctly. I don't have 2 bite sleeves. I have 1 bite sleeve." And she
Yeah.
said, try everything you can to get him off you. Lift him off the ground, do figure eights, the whole shooting match. I'm like, okay. So she gives the commands. Boom. Kenny's the fur missile, just jets to me, clamps down on my arm. And at first I thought he was going to break it, even
Yeah.
with the bite sleeve. The amount of
Oh, yeah.
power with those dogs is, unless you feel it, you're like, holy wow. So I had him off the ground. I'm doing figure eights, blah, blah. Would not let go until she gave the command. And then he ran back right to her side. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my God. And then, then it's playtime. It's like, good
Yeah.
job, Kenny. So everything is rewarded with playtime. He loved a towel that she'd wrap up with rubber bands and just play fetch
And
with
just
it.
play. I love it.
Yeah, and play tug of war, play fetch. Everything was playtime for him.
So,
It just, that was his reward. It wasn't food. It was, I mean, yeah, he'd get some pets, but other than that, it was play.
oh, I
And,
love it.
and the amazing part about Kenny was he was cross-trained with narcotics detection, excuse me. And one time they're out doing some kind of, there's a ton of training. It's constant training when you have a dog. If there's
Yeah.
downtime, you're training. It's just train, 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 train. And she said they're out in some field doing some kind of training. And she said, I wonder if he could detect gunpowder. He hasn't been trained for it, but let's give it a try. So she put Kenny in her car. She went off somewhere that he couldn't see, and she dropped some bullets into this like cornfield. He found every one of them.
I believe it.
So
Yeah.
she's like, I think I'm onto something here. So she trained him to be a gun detection dog. He could smell the gunpowder.
Nice. Nice. I love
So
that.
yeah. And then one time I did see Kenny in action. I'll
Okay.
never forget it. Actually, a friend of mine that I worked with years ago on late shift at District 5, he was like in a gang squad kind of thing in Intel. It was plain clothes. He was chasing some gangster in a really horrible part of the district that I was working at. It was like something out of a movie where you're chasing a bad guy and he winds up in a backyard where they're having a barbecue with everybody has their shirts off. They're all tatted up. They're all gang members.
Okay.
And he's by himself. He's like, "Get me some help right now." So it's like, boom, everybody zooms down there, and Kenny and Christina come, and they already had the bad guy in handcuffs. The crowd is getting real irritable. F the police, blah blah blah. And it's
Wow.
like, I wonder how many guns and knives are in this crowd right now. I know there's a ton. And I look at Christina. I said, "Could you tell him to bark, like bark savagely?" She said,
Okay.
"Yeah, I can do that." So she gives a command, it's like, "Rah, rah, 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 rah." And so everybody took a step back, and we're walking this guy to a patrol wagon that's under arrest. And like I said, he's tatted up head to toe, no shirt on. I think was he a Latin king or maybe a Mexican posse? I don't know.
Okay.
Whatever.
So pretty serious.
Oh yeah. And Kenny is just next to him. He's not even barking anymore. He's just there. And oh yeah, you're the
Oh,
story. You got to bark. Okay, Clark.
that's right.
Um, all
Well, Clark
15
wants us
pounds
to
of
know
you.
he is tough. He is just as tough as Kenny. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what happens is this guy out of nowhere tries to kick Kenny. And
oh,
everything
bad
happened like in
idea.
a microsecond. He went to try he may have got Kenny, but Kenny clamped onto his stomach.
Oh,
And
ooh, yeah.
I never heard a man squeal like that ever in my life.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm like, everybody stopped what they were doing, including all these like gangsters that were, giving us all kinds of BS, blah, blah, blah. And then, Christina gives the command to release and he releases. And I'm like, he barely broke the skin.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I thought there'd be intestines flying all over the
Yeah, I
place. I
would
mean, it
think
would
so
be nuts.
too.
So I'm like, all right, take him to the hospital. So anytime a dog bites, a prisoner or a suspect, off to the hospital, everybody goes.
Yeah.
So he's in the hospital and he's talking stupid. And I'm like, dude, I understand you don't like the police, but you realize, you want to pick a fight with this dog that could literally chew off tree branches. What do you think he's going to do to you?
Yeah.
He's like, man, I'm like, yeah, yeah, keep talking smack. I'll bring him back here and he'll finish the job, And I'm like,
Yeah.
nope. But yeah, I was amazed by how much control he had, and he knew not to like rip this guy apart.
That's
He had,
amazing.
I, like I said, that dog was nothing short of amazing.
That's awesome. Now, I know there's other canines now, but was he kind of the main one you worked with at the time, or did you have others
No,
too?
there was all kinds of dogs, and
Okay.
it would be when I worked late shift, there wasn't a lot of them. When I
Okay.
started power shift, which was 7 p.m. to 3 a.m., they'd work till about midnight or 1 in the morning. We
Okay.
didn't have canines that worked midnight to 8
Okay. Okay.
specifically,
Interesting.
unless they were called out for something, because they would do tracking. You know, Kenny was a tracker too.
Okay.
Say there was like a missing kid, or you know, uh, an older person wanders off, and it's Wisconsin. It's
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was kind of cute because towards the end of his career, his muzzle was starting to get pretty gray. All right, Clark, that's enough. He's getting
Clark has a
he's
lot
getting
to
up
say.
there. And canines don't last a long, long time because it is a very physically demanding job and they need to
Yes.
have certain standards. So I don't know, 7, 8 years, maybe a little bit more, but not much. And he was getting towards the end of his career. And I remember one time, Christina's driving somewhere, so I pull over to talk to her, and Kenny's in the front seat with her in the
Oh,
passenger seat.
nice.
And I'm like, oh my God, Christina, you're not supposed to do that. She said, I know, but he wants to be up here with me. And I'm just like, all right, whatever.
I love it. I love it. I mean, it happens sometimes, you break
Yes.
the working dog rules, but I won't go down that road because I don't want to admit to the ones I broke. So I mean, there might have been a hotel room or two that the dog was on the bed with me, but we won't admit that totally. So
It's funny because I remember, talking to canine handlers, their city property,
yeah.
but they stay with you in your house and they give you an allowance for food, vet, and they they give you a kennel. And I remember a buddy of mine, another buddy of mine that had a canine. He says, "Yeah, it's great for storing my lawnmower and all this. The thing's huge. Like, the dog sleeps on the bed with me. What are you talking about?" Like that's what I kind of figured.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't always. I mean, it depended on the dog, but yeah, yeah, there's some rules that might be broken here or there.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely.
well, this has been fantastic, and I love Clark. Clark had to add in a few things to the interview, and he knows he could have been a great canine as well. So,
Yes, all 15 pounds of him. I
yes,
will say though, he does not back down to any dog or human.
no.
And last night, I was working. I bartend. I got home at about midnight, one
Oh,
o'clock in the
wow.
morning, and he comes down. He wants to go outside. I'm like, fine. There's a rabbit in the backyard. I'm like, oh
Oh
no.
no.
So he's running after the rabbit, and he caught it, and he grabbed it by the back of the neck and threw it.
Oh,
And he didn't
Clark.
kill it, thank goodness. And then I'm like, oh my, finally he listened to me and he came into the house and I'm like, that rabbit was probably a little bigger than you, Clark. But I'm impressed. I am impressed.
Oh man. Well, no one should mess with Clark.
No,
But he's awfully cute. So,
thank you. And he knows it.
he does. I love it. Well, where can readers, I mean, we've talked about your podcast, your Facebook website, but where would you recommend someone start if they want to get to know more about you or connect with you?
The Facebook group Cops and Writers is a good place to
Okay.
start. Website has all my links for my socials.
Okay.
Anything that's going on, that's new, any new projects, new books, etc. So yeah, just copsandwriters.com. I try to make it as
Okay.
simple as possible. And then of course the books Cops and Writers. And I wrote a series with Michael Anderle called Brew City Blues. That was set in
That's right.
Milwaukee. And
Okay.
then I started my own series, The Good Collar, and that is also set in Milwaukee.
Fantastic. And I should also mention for listeners who, since this is sort of an animal focused podcast, who enjoy canines, you have several episodes with canine handlers and trainers and whatnot on your podcast that they could check out.
I do. I'm just trying to think of specific ones, but yeah, I try to include if there's a dog somewhere, and I've had you on my show,
Mhm.
and we talk more specifically about what you used to do with canine handling and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, if anybody's out there that wants to be a guest, just hit me up. My email is sarge@copsandriders.com.
Fantastic. And I'll put the website in the show notes so people
Sweet.
can go there too. Well, thank you so much for coming on Sit Stay Read, and I've loved learning more about you, your writing, and your career. And have to say thank you very much for your service. And until next time, keep your tails wagging and pages turning.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me today. Sit, Stay, Read is a part of the Authors on the Air Global Network. If you enjoyed today's author interview, be sure to leave a review and share the episode with a fellow animal-loving reader. If you're curious about the world of working dogs and wilderness adventures, please check out my books at KathleenDonnelly.com. Until next time, curl up with your best furry friend and sit, stay, read.